All right, today we're diving into one of the biggest, most mind-bending questions out there. What exactly is consciousness? We're going to explore a wild and pretty controversial idea that suggests your inner world, that feeling of being you, might actually be born from the super strange rules of quantum mechanics. Seriously, just for a second, think about it. It's not just what you're thinking about, but the incredible fact that you're thinking at all. The fact that you experience the color blue, or the taste of your morning coffee, or a feeling of happiness. Where does all of that subjective first-person reality, actually come from? That's the mystery we're cracking open today. Now, to solve any mystery right, you've got to define it first. And in the world of neuroscience, the central puzzle of consciousness has a name: the hard problem. So, neuroscientists kind of split this into two camps. You've got the easy problems, and I say easy in quotes because, let's be real, they're still unbelievably complex. These are all about function. How does the brain's machinery work? But then there's the hard problem. This isn't about what the brain does, it's about why it feels like something to be alive. Why do we have this rich, private movie playing in our heads 24/7? Classical science really hits a wall here. And this is where our little investigation takes a really weird turn. Some scientists think the answer to the hard problem isn't in classical biology at all. The main suspect they've got lined up comes from the strangest place you could imagine: the world of quantum physics. The theory's got a pretty wild name: Orchestrated Objective Reduction. Let's just call it Orch-OR for short. It's way easier. The core idea is that what we experience as consciousness is actually the result of tiny, quantum-level computations happening deep inside our brain cells. It's a huge leap from thinking of the brain as just a wet biological computer. This whole theory is the brainchild of this incredible duo. On one side, you have Sir Roger Penrose, a total rock star physicist who argued that human thought is just too creative and non-algorithmic to be explained by normal computers. And on the other, you've got Dr. Stuart Hameroff, an anesthesiologist who's on the front lines every day, literally watching consciousness get switched off and on. He's the one who pointed to a specific place where this could all be happening. So if there's some kind of quantum action going on, where's the scene of the crime? Let's zoom way, way in, deep inside a single neuron, to find out. The location, we're talking about these things called microtubules. They're these incredibly tiny, hollow cylinders, and they basically form the internal skeleton, the scaffolding inside every single one of our neurons. Okay, so why these little tubes? What's so special about them? Well, sure, they do all the normal cell stuff, but Penrose and Hameroff argued that their unique, almost crystal-like structure makes them the perfect candidates to host and insulate delicate quantum processes, shielding them from the noisy chaos of the rest of the cell. Of course, a wild theory is one thing, but any good detective needs clues, right? And in the last decade or so, some really intriguing ones have started to pop up that seem to point in Orch-OR's direction. The first big bombshell dropped in 2014. A research team found something absolutely incredible: high-frequency quantum vibrations just buzzing away right inside these microtubules. This was massive. It showed that quantum effects weren't just possible, they were actually happening in the exact place the theory predicted. It was like finding a fingerprint at the scene of the crime. Okay, cool. So we've got quantum buzzes happening in brain tubes. But so what? How in the world does that connect to the grand experience of being conscious? Well, the next clue comes from the operating room. General anesthetics are basically a light switch for consciousness. You turn it off, you turn it back on. But here's the crazy part. For more than 100 years, nobody really knew how they worked. Turns out, the evidence now suggests they work by targeting microtubules. And here's where it all clicks together. Researchers discovered that anesthetic gases literally dampen or quiet down those quantum vibrations. And get this, in another study, a drug that makes microtubules stronger and more stable actually made rats resistant to anesthesia. This points to a pretty direct link between the quantum state of these tiny tubes and the on-off switch of our own awareness. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A quantum brain sounds like something straight out of a movie. But hold on, because it turns out nature is already a master quantum engineer. We see this stuff, quantum biology, all over the place. Plants use a quantum trick to achieve near-perfect efficiency in photosynthesis. It's ridiculously good. And it's widely thought that migratory birds use quantum entanglement in their eyes to literally see the Earth's magnetic field to navigate. So a quantum process in the brain, maybe not so strange after all. But like any good mystery, there's a plot twist. A huge one, actually. There's a major objection to this theory, and it's the reason most scientists have been super skeptical for decades. And here it is. For years, the main arguments against Orch-OR is that the brain is just the wrong kind of place for it. It's warm, it's wet, it's electrically noisy. It's basically seen as the absolute worst environment for delicate, fragile quantum states to survive in. The scientific principle here is called quantum decoherence. Think of a quantum state like a delicate soap bubble. The second it interacts with the messy environment around it, pop, it collapses. It loses all its special quantum properties and just becomes a boring, classical thing. And the critics did the math. They calculated that in the brain's warm, wet environment, any quantum state would decohere in mere femtoseconds. I mean, look at that number. That timescale is so ridiculously fast, it would be completely useless for any meaningful brain process, like, forming a thought. For a long time, that was pretty much the killer argument. Case closed. But the story isn't over. The verdict is not in, because science is finally on the verge of being able to test this theory for real. This is the mission now underway. In labs, scientists are designing experiments to test this directly, to see if anesthetics really do disrupt these quantum effects, to try and shield them from decoherence, and even to try and control them with light and sound. We are finally moving from just pure theory to testable science. And that brings us all the way back to the ultimate question. It's still one of the most audacious, mind-bending ideas in all of science. But as these experiments finally get underway, we may soon find out if the answer to the ancient mystery of consciousness has been hiding inside the strange and wonderful world of quantum mechanics all along.